So folks, Mick Schumacher has a happy place, and it's anywhere but the Haas garage. Kidding, of course. In today's video, we'll be talking about how off-roading on the ranch is the young German's happy place. Oh, and we'll also be talking about how he's hopeful for an F1 seat in the future. So make sure to stay until the end of this video to learn all about it. First up, inside Mick's happy place. This season didn't really end on a good note for the 23-year-old. Unfortunately, he's out of an F1 seat, and as of right now, it doesn't seem like he's getting one anytime soon, because the grid for 2023 seems pretty stable, like no one's retiring, especially considering that the oldest bloke in F1's contracted for the next 2 years. He's ending up with Mercedes, yeah, but realistically speaking, Lewis is in for another 4 to 5 seasons, so that doesn't seem like an option. Ferrari and Red Bull have got a good thing going with their current drivers, so yeah, but don't worry, we'll get into all that later in the video. For now, let's talk about his happy place. Mick Schumacher is calm. There's a sense, even if just for a moment, that F1 is a million miles away. This feels like a safe space, away from the world. Where's that place? In the eerie quiet of the North Texas ranch. Except that gets even better when the silence is broken by Schumacher's off-road Can-Am Maverick X3 as he drives around the track. The circuit is dug into the brown Texas soil in the far corner of the 400-ish acre property that his family owns. When talking about off-roading, Schumacher states with a grin that he can do this all day. It's an old cliche, isn't it? Race drivers spending their free time driving cars. But hey, can you blame them? We mean, like, come on, driving at over 200 miles an hour, you can't just sit and do normal boring people stuff when you're free. Next up, a different Schumacher. The Schumacher that you find on the track is not the same Schumacher we're talking about. No, this Texan version of him has a kind of calm about him. When the engine slows to a halt, the tranquil silence returns. This Schumacher family ranch in Texas is a world of its own. It's a calm of its own. It's a safe space, safe from the ruckus of documentary makers. When talking to ESPN about it, Schumacher stated that this is a retreat, a spot where he's free to do whatever the heck he wants to. He loves the idea of not being observed or looked at, so he often comes here to enjoy his time. Oh, and of course, since it's the Schumacher ranch, it's kinda super low-key, like a blink and you miss it kind of thing. There's nothing about it that would tell you that the once king of the sport owns it, and his son comes here to off-road. Moving on, what's up? Why the ranch? Schumacher's dad, Mick's dad, Michael, bought the ranch in 2012 to escape fame in Europe, because y'all gotta remember, before Netflix's Drive to Survive, F1 wasn't too big in the States. In fact, it wasn't too big anywhere in the world except for Europe. So he came here to kind of just relax and be in a place where he's not Michael Schumacher, just some random bloke. And he did pick the perfect place for that, because even in this hyper sensationalized era of the sport, it's a place where Mick can go and escape reality. Talking about the location, Mick stated that it's perfect because it's in the middle of nowhere. He stated that even when he goes shopping, no one recognizes him around here, which is kind of perfect, isn't it? We'll get a ranch right next to Mick's when we get famous too. Maybe then we can bother him with all the F1 questions we want. Wait, never mind. That's exactly what he's trying to avoid. Here's another problem with Mick. It's not just that he's famous, it's also his last name. The Schumacher surname and Michael's legacy, 7 world championships and 91 Grand Prix wins, follow him everywhere he goes, because that's the bar. That's what everyone expects him to perform like. It's a huge cross to bear. Even during his rookie season, there were a lot of high expectations from the guy, but like, come on, he hasn't even had a chance to prove himself just yet. He really did have an awful car. The truth is, he has no intention of giving up his F1 dream, but don't worry, we'll get to that. Up next, will Mick stop racing? So, when he was asked if he's following in his sister's footsteps, he stated that he's never going to not do racing. He stated that he just loves it so much. The problem is, exactly like how Dale Earnhardt Jr. or Bruno Senna, Schumacher's last name has been a help, and it's been a hindrance. His karting career started shortly after his dad was injured in 2013, and while Michael's current status is a closely guarded secret, we are kind of aware that he can talk at least a little bit. But this has created another burden for Mick to carry. His family has done their best to protect him from the the questions. And Mick himself has carried himself exceptionally well for someone this young with so much on their shoulders. He even races with the number 47, which denotes that he's racing 47, a number closely associated with his dad. When talking about the whole thing, Mick stated that the pressure has always been a part of his life and that he's had to always bear the pressure. He has proven, though, that he's perfectly capable of racing under pressure. He also stated that he's extremely happy and comfortable when he's in the car. Oh, and as far as the ranch is concerned, the reason why Mick was there was because he had invited a small group of Haas engineers and mechanics as a thank you for everything, and also as an apology for crashing so much. His crashes were actually what ensured he didn't get a third year with the team, despite an impressive second half of the season. What's more, Schumacher's off-road hobby started at the ranch. Schumacher's hobby started right here in Texas. Originally, there wasn't any circuit, no place to drive, but who needs that when you've got acres upon acres of Texas grassland? Mick stated that usually he'd drive around the woods and all that, so that was more dangerous than being on the dirt track like he is now. Oh, and you know why he owns a modified buggy now? You'll be surprised. It's because of Esteban Ocon. Tearing around the family property, Schumacher stopped for a picture with a caption that read, "If I ever make an album, this would be the cover." To which Can-Am soon replied. When they did, Ocon grabbed Schumacher's phone and DM'd them asking if they could help him with his upgrades for his buggy. And well, they didn't need to be asked twice. They jumped at the chance. It's one of the fastest UTVs on the market now. However, Schumacher is still mastering the vehicle and the course, but he really enjoys it quite a lot. And here's another thing about him. Every time he has to get out of the car, it clearly shows on his face that he's disappointed. But that's still not that bad because he's quite relaxed out here. When talking about his experience on the ranch, he stated, "Whenever I'm close, I come out here. Just do this all day or drive around. See the horses, pet some dogs. We've got lots of dogs out here." It's just very different to the F1 world, but also to the European world, I would say. Let's talk about how Mick still retains hope for an F1 future. Despite his future being quite unclear, Schumacher doesn't feel like the round in Abu Dhabi was his last race. And let's assume it was his last race. Then it did not end well for the guy. He finished P16 and he had a 5-second penalty for causing a collision with Nicholas Latifi. And in their report of the incident, the steward stated that it was Mick who was fully to blame after he braked too late into turn 5. As a consequence of that, he ran into the rear of the Canadian, who also won't be in F1 next year. When looking back at the incident, Schumacher stated that it was the lack of vision around the car that played a part in his mistake. He stated that when in these F1 cars, you don't have a good view of what's happening around you. He also stated that the tires and steering wheel are right up in your face. And when talking about how this is going to be his last race, he stated that this didn't feel like his last race. He also stated that his mind is pretty much set on returning in 2024, if not 2023. He stated that right now, he's not in the position to get a full-time seat, but he's confident that he'll get something or the other. He also stated that he's shown his pace and that he knows a lot of folks are happy with how he's developed. Anyway, that's a wrap for today's video. Do you guys think Mick Schumacher will ever return to F1? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed. Having said that, see you in the next one. Peace.